Hello and welcome back to Automotive Tales. On today's episode, we're back in the Rolls-Royce again. We're actually doing Bring Your Pride and Joy to Work day at work. So I'm taking the Rolls-Royce in to show everybody what it looks like, because most people have talked about it but not actually seen it. So we're back at Henry's car barn. We've just picked the car up. Karim has sorted out with another quart of oil because she's just used it a little bit on long journeys, and we hadn't touched it since we got back from Le Mans, as you'll be able to see when I show you the outside, because it's absolutely filthy. But I kind of like it like that. It's a well-used car, I think is the way I'd describe it. So we might give it a quick hose down, and then we're taking it to work. And then when it comes back, the folks here at Henry's car barn are going to have it all detailed up for us, and Karim's going to have a look at the wheel bearings, maybe do an oil change as well, just so it's got some nice fresh clean oil in, as we had to put a bit of 1030 in because it was what we could get our hands on while we were out there, because the oil level was looking a little bit low and I didn't want to risk getting it anywhere near properly low. So we're going to enjoy a nice little drive in the Rolls again with its nice strong aircon, which is necessary because it's a good sort of 24, 25 degrees today. So a little bit warm, but not in here. It's lovely and cool. Right, wait for the gates to open, and then of course go and fill up with petrol, because it's what you always do when you pick up the Rolls-Royce is put petrol in it. What's the guess? 50 quid, 60 quid, 100 quid? Who knows? We'll soon find out. Right, gotta go. Bye. So I am back in the car. We had a successful trip to work. Everybody likes seeing the old Rolls. Now, quick update for you. So the plan was to take the car back to the car barn, get them to clean it, maybe get Karim to do some little bits and pieces on the car. But while driving it, I realised there are a few things that really need probably a bit more major attention. So it is a while since the car's actually been properly serviced. It's not done many miles because of COVID, but it is definitely due a proper service. So what I'm probably going to do is take it into Dwayne. He's agreed to have a look at the car on Friday this week. So I'm going to go and see him in the afternoon. He's going to put the car on the ramps. We're going to have a check over, look for some of the things that I think are going on underneath that I can't check myself, because this thing weighs 2.7 tons. So I don't actually have a jack that's strong enough to lift it up. So I can't get underneath and check what I think the problems might be. So we're going to inspect the car on Friday, see if what I think is going on, and then we're going to book it in. It's going to be mid-August. So Dwayne is actually having an open day at his new workshop up in Nottingham. So Starman's is going to be open to the public on the 14th. So if you want to come along and have a look at some of the nice cars he works on and some of the customers, then get in touch with him directly. I think you need to book in advance, but it will be open to the public if you've booked in advance. So we're actually going to take the car in on that day, leave it with him so we can do the list of jobs we're going to create this Friday. So what are those jobs? Well, first of all, as I mentioned, it needs a good service. So we're probably going to do oil, plugs, leads, all the usual stuff. Check the transmission fluid, check the diff oil, because we did the seals on that, as you probably remember, about 2 years ago. So check that's actually holding oil properly. Give the braking and suspension system a quick check over, given the experiences with the Bentley. Now, I need to do you a quick update. So I've already told you that the Bentley is back in storage. It's all been fixed. So Dwayne did a fabulous job of turning that round while we were in France. And I have now had the invoice. It's cost me £204 for doing that aircon regas we did before we left. And then fixing the suspension system that failed on us the whole 8 miles on the journey to Le Mans. So while the transport was expensive because we had to get it shipped ourselves because the RAC let us down, that wasn't too big a bill, to be honest. So quick update on the RAC. So you remember when we broke down on the Le Mans trip, we had to organise our own transport. The delays, it was expected to be about 5.5, 6 hours before the RAC would arrive, and that just wasn't quick enough. We weren't going to make the ferry. So we paid for it to be transported, and they said they would reimburse me. They never defined what that actually meant. I have now discovered that means the maximum reimbursement they can possibly offer is £140. Now, how they expect to have moved it for £140 is beyond me, because it cost nearly £250 to have the car trailered, because the Bentley's a 2.9 ton vehicle, so it has to go on a 7.5 ton wagon. So it just costs a lot of money. So maybe that's why it takes so long for the RAC to come out. If they're only paying 140 quid to move a vehicle on a 7.5 ton wagon, no wonder it takes 6 hours to get there. So that's the latest on the Bentley. So I'm looking forward to getting that out and driving it again and see if it doesn't break down. I fifth time. I think we're on 4 for 4 at the moment. I've taken it out 4 times on decent journeys and it's broken down. Not necessarily always failed to proceed, but it has broken down at least 4 for 4. So that's not really great. So yeah, anyway, we're going to get this car into Dwayne. I will hopefully take you with me and we'll have a good look underneath and have a look at some of the bits that need doing. I have my suspicions there might be a drive shaft that's failing. It's starting to make a bit of a strange noise at the back end, a bit of a clicky noise. Now that might just be, if this is an early car, it might still be on UJs, so the UJs might just need greasing, or if it's a CV joint, maybe one of the gators has failed. Who knows? It could be a myriad of things on a car like this. The clunking could even be, there's little dampers on the rear axle, so when you accelerate, it takes up some of the impact of accelerating, so it's nice and smooth for your passengers. And those are notorious for failing, and then the axle starts to move around a little bit, so maybe it's one of those. Who knows? So Dwayne's going to help us figure all that out, and then we'll get it booked in, and we'll go back for probably another huge bill. But you know, you've got to do these things to keep these old cars running. Now, if you have your own ramps or you have a jack that's suitable of lifting nearly 3 tons, then you could probably do quite a lot of this yourself. But that's not a setup I am in yet. I am working on trying to get a setup where I actually have proper lift so I can do more of this work myself. But until then, I've got to pay somebody that's got the hardware, got the skills and got the knowledge. That's what you're paying for. And I don't mind paying for those 3 things. Right, that's all for this bit. Hopefully, you will see me at Dwayne's garage next. So here goes. So one other thing I've noticed on the Rolls-Royce while I was filming the last bit, apart from my hair coming over all 90s middle parting, is this. Those bastards that I go to Le Mans with have pranked me again. Look, look, the harmonica underneath the bumper. You absolute sods. Guess where we are? Yeah, of course. We made it, thank goodness. So now to figure out what on earth is going on under here. That's not a... Right, I knew they'd put some on the front. Right. So, these assholes that I go to Le Mans with. Look, no wonder it's making funny bloody noises. I found one up here when I came off the ferry. I didn't realise there was 8 of them on the absolute bastards. Since recording this video, I realised we set a time lapse for the entire duration of the journey to Le Mans. So I had a scan through and look what I found. Busted, James. Absolutely busted. I see you putting harmonicas on the Rolls-Royce. How would you had time to figure this out and plan this when I was so many hours late to the ferry port? But bravo, sir. Bravo. So, nonsense at the front of the car aside, we're going to try and work out what is knocking in this corner, because it does sound like something is knocking away. But interestingly, you can actually see, this is the new valve body we fitted a while ago, isn't it? Which was a refurb unit, because that was why it had a gangster lean the first time we took it to France. And that's the other one on this side, looking a bit dirtier, but still nice and dry, which is good. So I wouldn't normally be able to film with another car running, but it's so quiet that it's quite okay. So I'm going to take the opportunity to show you the stainless exhaust system that we fitted on the car a while back, which is still looking really rather splendid. As you see from the front, nice downpipes here. Have a little bit of heat bloom on that, which is nice. And you can see that this one is definitely sweating power as well. So actually it's probably not burning oil when we're driving, it's squitting it out from somewhere, which looks like it's probably somewhere at the back of the engine. So that's a problem for another day. So what do you think? Anything obvious?
Well, that spring's on one side. The canvas is gone. See how it's on one side in the cup?
Yeah.
And it's sitting there.
Interesting.
This side's gone the other way.
It's Kyle, so I'm going to have to get out from it, otherwise I'm going to have a 2.7 ton Rolls on my head.
Do you want your whistles cutting off before it comes down?
Yes, please. you go. So, sounds well, doesn't it? So we've solved a couple of problems, or we understand a few more problems. The first one is it was dropping out occasionally when it was warm in reverse. The idle was a little bit low, so we've just adjusted the, well, I said we, Dwayne has just adjusted the idle. So now it's just a little bit higher and it sits a bit smoother, which is nice. We've identified what the clunking sound I could hear was. It was actually the fuel door, which we put some bits of rubber on. Doesn't make a noise anymore. We've had the car up in the air. We now know, we think what the problem is. The gas springs have gone. So they're basically the little green spheres you see on Citroens and Rolls and Bentleys of this era that have got gas on one side, your fluid on the other side, and the gas is what gives you the spring. So that's why it's been feeling like something's not right at the back end. It's walloping because there's no spring left in the system. So we're going to get it booked in, 2 new gas springs. The actual coil springs on the back need doing as well, because the little caps that go on top and bottom, they're not rubber on these like other cars we've done. They're actually made of like a fabric, and they've rotted away. So that'll just help stiffen the back end up a bit and just firm it all out. And then we think there's a little bit of a noise and a rattle. One of the wheel trims is a bit loose, so we're going to see if we can just nip that up. So yeah, all in all, looking and sounding much better. Oh, near the last thing, there was definitely a wheel bearing, but it wasn't the front, it wasn't even this one, it was the rear right, driver's side right. So that'll get done next time it's in as well. So it'll all be tickety-boo and ready to go. So I am on my way home. I'm working my way through the traffic in Nottingham, so I thought I'd just do a bit of a sit rep in a slightly quieter environment. I'm not sure how much of the filming I've done at the workshop with Dwayne and Kyle will be audible, because there was lots of stuff going on. So the summary from today, summary for me, is a bit of peace of mind. So Dwayne has checked the car over and he has identified the problem. In fact, once we drove the vehicle, it took him all of about 5 seconds to work out what the problem is. So I'd reported it, something doesn't feel quite right at the back of the car. It felt a bit wallowy, I think is the right word. Now that's different to being wafty. So this car should be wafty, it should be comfortable and soft. But what was happening is it feels like the back end is almost like it's got too much weight in it, and it's sinking a lot more often than it should. Now, on a regular vehicle, you'd instantaneously jump to, okay, the dampers have failed, because that's exactly what the symptoms would tell you. Now this is a much more complicated vehicle, so you have dampers, you have springs, but you also have the hydroelastic suspension, the oil-filled, pressurised system that's shared with the brakes, which is the problem we had on the Bentley. Now they're a Citroen-based system, so they share many components with Citroens, and one of those components is the big green spheres. If you've ever worked on or poked around under the bonnet of a Citroen, you'll know what I mean. And they are a device for holding pressure. They're basically a pressure sphere, or pressure bomb, some people call them, mainly because they look like a bomb. They're a little tiny sphere about the size of your hand. And they're nitrogen filled on one side. They've got the brake/suspension LHM fluid on the other side. And what happens is the system builds up pressure, and there's a diaphragm in there that allows you to store that pressure as compressed gas, because gas is compressible, whereas liquid is not. So that's what gives you your springiness. That's what eventually gives you part of your suspension. And when that diaphragm fails, of course, the whole thing fills up with brake fluid. So straight away, Dwayne noticed it was getting a little bit crashy on the back end. That means the spheres have failed. So diaphragms have let go in the spheres. So they're a fairly cheap, simple, well, I'm not sure about cheap, but they're definitely a simple fix. Unfortunately, it doesn't have any in stock, but that's fine. We're going to have it booked in for the 14th anyway. So that's the first job to address. We have identified which wheel bearing it is that's gone, and it is the driver's rear. So it definitely sounded like it was on this side of the car. I thought it was up front, but it's definitely the rear that's gone. The fronts are okay. There's a little bit of play, but nothing really out of the ordinary. And then the final thing, so we checked over all the driveline, everything else looks absolutely fine, nice and dry, no leaks on any of the suspension system, which is great. Still haven't quite got to the bottom of what the vibration is. Now that might be those bloody harmonicas. I thought there was an extra 2 on the front, turns out there was another 4 underneath the car. So Kyle cut those off for me and they've gone. So we'll see once I get up to speed on the A453 whether the vibration is there and it was just those flapping around in the wind. Who knows? And then the last thing, there was a knocking at the rear, which I thought was a symptom of the damper. So as it's not the dampers that have failed, they're all nice and dry, seem to be doing their job fine, because it's the spheres and the diaphragms and the spheres that have gone. We had a hunt around, everything feels nice and tight at the rear. However, it is no longer knocking. We found the source of the problem. So as a result of the car wallowing a lot more, there's a lot more movement, causing a bit of shift left and right in the back end. It doesn't help that the top caps for the springs have perished, which are going to get replaced next time. We're probably going to put new springs as well as new top caps in. And the noise, because it was wallowing and moving around just that little bit too much, it's the fuel door. So the fuel door has got a little push button to release, which pings the door open when you stop for fuel, which interestingly is something I need to do. So having driven up from Henry's Car Barn, basically Caffeine and Machine, up to Derby for an event, back home, and then up here to Nottingham, I have used £100 worth of fuel, which is makes me feel sick. Anywho's, so the fuel door has now been rattling, and that's what I could hear knocking. So Kyle, in his infinite wisdom, went and got some double-sided tape and a little bit of rubber, stuck it on the fuel door. We went out for a test drive. No more clanking. It genuinely sounded like it was coming from the wheel arch, because the fuel door is right above that corner where we thought we had the problem. So all in all, some expensive fixes, some not so expensive fixes. So, you know, yin and yang, balances out. So we're booked in for the 14th. The car is perfectly fine to drive. That wheel bearing isn't going to get much worse in this period of time. And somebody's going to pull out on me. That wasn't ideal. So we can continue driving the car with a bit of peace of mind. There's nothing major wrong. The suspension isn't ideal, but it isn't going to cause any more damage in driving it. The wheel bearing isn't going to get that much worse. So enjoy the car, get some miles on it, which is what it was built for. Which is good. It's like a weight lifted off my shoulder. The longer I drive the car without having had a chance to get underneath it, this goes for all my cars, I start to get worried about things I can't see, things I don't know, and then I get nervous about driving the car, which is not ideal, because then that generally lends you to not wanting to drive them. The thinking being that if there's something wrong, I've heard a knock or a bang or a clacker or a strange noise, I'm concerned that if I continue to drive it, something's going to get worse and I'm going to end up causing more damage by driving something that's not working properly. But actually in this case, it's fine. Keep driving the car and it'll be fixed at the next time it goes in. So that's definitely a weight off my shoulder, and I feel I can really enjoy the car. It's a lot more lethargic to drive because I'm not sitting constantly listening for noises, trying to work out what the problem might be. So, cathartic drive home. So you're going to probably see the same stretch of the A453 because we're just about to get there in the other direction. So that's all for this episode of Automotive Tales. You'll join us next time on the Rolls-Royce adventure as we bring it up to Starman's in Nottingham again to have all those jobs done later in the year, so it's booked in for August. And hopefully there should be some other interesting things to see while we're there, because Dwayne is having an open day on the 14th. Right, that's it for now. Catch you next time. Bye. Anything but a petrol station. Another £100, 47 litres. Not as bad this time, but then it isn't Shell, it's only Esso, but it is their nice E5 Supreme. God, it's expensive to run.